Yesterday, federal agents executed search warrants at 2 properties in Los Angeles and Miami belonging to rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs. A source familiar with the matter told NBC News that Combs is the subject of a federal investigation following a wave of lawsuits that have been filed against him. Those lawsuits, including from his former girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, alleged physical and sexual abuse, which Combs has denied. The source also confirmed that 3 women and a man have been interviewed by federal officials in Manhattan in relation to allegations of sex trafficking, sexual assault, and the solicitation and distribution of illegal narcotics and firearms. Late today, Combs' lawyer issued the following statement. Quote, yesterday, there was a gross overuse of military-level force as search warrants were executed at Mr. Combs' residences. There was no excuse for the excessive show of force and hostility exhibited by authorities or the way his children and employees were treated. Mr. Combs was never detained, but spoke to and cooperated with authorities. Despite media speculation, neither Mr. Combs nor any of his family members have been arrested, nor has their ability to travel been restricted in any way. This unprecedented ambush, paired with an advanced coordinated media presence, leads to a premature rush to judgment of Mr. Combs and is nothing more than a witch hunt based on meritless accusations made in civil lawsuits. There's been no finding of criminal or civil liability with any of these allegations. Mr. Combs is innocent and will continue to fight every single day to clear his name, unquote. Joining me now is Touré, host of Masters of the Game. The new season premieres Friday on The Grio. What is going on? Because we did also see Diddy's sons arrested. They were detained. They weren't arrested. They were just detained. Yeah. But what is going on?
Well, it seems that there are several people who are saying things about Combs to the government, and they are trying to figure out what's going on. I found it interesting that they had enough to get a search warrant, right, for multiple places, but not enough yet to arrest him. So we're in the investigation phase, and clearly they don't care if we let him know that we know what's going on.
Yeah.
But it seems part of his whole life, his whole journey has been this sort of scorched earth campaign where you see him continuing to succeed or do big things and leave people in his wake hurt. We go back to CCNY, which a party that he overpromoted, that people ended up getting killed. You think about the many artists who either left, in complaint or went to the church or, died after, I mean, there was a lot of disheartened artists who left him that he raised up.
Shine.
On and on. And now this large, growing number of people who are alleging crazy stuff about him.
Yeah.
And these are things that people in the industry have been hearing about.
It's giving R. Kelly, Touré. It's disturbing.
I was personally disturbed many years ago, okay? I know this man well enough to call him and say, hey, I need a favor.
Yeah.
And this might have been 10, 12 years ago that I called him and say, hey, I have a family member who I want you to hire them as an intern.
Yeah.
And I have never talked about this publicly. And he said yes. And they were flying around, one of the interns, Atlanta, Miami, whatever, on the jet, in the house, whatever. And then the internship stopped abruptly, like 3 or 4 months into it.
Yeah.
And I spoke to my family member, like, well, what happened? And they wouldn't say.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did it end? He wouldn't say. And years later, they finally came out, and this a male, and said that Puff had said, come home, stay the night with me, or the internship is over. And they said, absolutely not. He said, absolutely not. And the internship ended. But from there, I was like, this is how it goes. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So to hear that things went even further with potentially, allegedly, many other people, it's not, we feel like we've seen this coming.
Well, there was the situation with, obviously, Russell Simmons, who does not live in the United States any further. Mm-hmm. You've had these situations, obviously, with R. Kelly. This feels like it is going down that kind of a track because you have multiple accusers with nothing proved. He's not been adjudicated whatever, but it's just talking.
Videos.
And he paid Cassie a lot of money.
A lot of money. And, the people are coming with videos, though. I mean, like evidence, not just hearsay. So, I mean, this is a very, very frightening situation. There was a period in the record business when a lot of wildness was going on of this sort. And here's another shoe dropping.
Yeah. And the thing is, I think, talk about where he stands, because what he's saying sounds very Trumpy.
Yeah.
It's talking about a witch hunt.
Yeah.
I had somebody text me earlier today. I think I texted you today and forwarded it to you that somebody's saying watch for him to try to weaponize sort of a Trump sort of narrative, or watch the Trump people try to weaponize what's happening in favor of Trump, to say, look, there's this persecuted black man like me who's like me, and try to weaponize it. It feels very Trumpish.
I hate to say that anyone is like Trump, but there is something in the long-term rise of Puff, in that he seemed to create his own reality, to demand that everyone around him follow what he wanted.
Yeah.
And people did. He had a ton of money behind him to start Bad Boy at a very young age.
Yeah.
And would just treat me. I mean, he's called me up and screamed at me on more than one occasion, and lots of people would say that. So the ego was gigantic. The ability to create the reality that he wanted seemed to be there.
But also to create a reality that was dangerous. I mean, I think for a lot of hip-hop fans, the failure to protect Notorious B.I.G., the sort of egging on of an East Coast, West Coast rivalry between friends that were people who knew and respected each other and didn't have to be beefing, and to sort of let that violence come. I think for a lot of us, and also oversampling and making hip hop into a sample machine. Don't get me started.
Now you're doing that.
Now I'm doing that. But I'm only doing that because you're my friend and you'll defend me. No, don't get me started, Teray. How does this go? Is he in the United States? Do we know where he is?
I don't know. I can't even call it. I don't know.
Well, you have to come back when you get more information. Teray, thank you.
Hey, everyone. MSNBC has a new and improved app. You'll get real-time alerts and analysis, live blogs, in-depth essays, video highlights, and the best 2024 election coverage. Download the new MSNBC app. Here's how to do it. You tap on the App Store on your phone. You hit search on the bottom right corner. You type in MSNBC. You click on the MSNBC app. You click on Get or the cloud icon and enjoy it.